Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. While Kev is sorting out his camera there, we're back for our fans forum, our usual Sunday night rundown of all the Villa news that's happened across the week. We've also had a game today, which we'll discuss. Doesn't look like we're going to win the summer series because I think Chelsea are. Well, they were 2-0 up at half time. But we'll delve into what our thoughts are of this summer series, what we think Emery's got out of it, and then we'll go over your questions, comments. So throw them in, and we'll also cover a bit of transfer news. Maybe an ex-Villa player who could potentially be returning to the club, although I think it was a spurious leak. But boys, Martin, you said backstage you were slightly delicate today, so maybe a heavy night last night. But yeah, how are you both doing?
Martin, you tell us about your heavy night, mate, quickly.
Yeah, well, we had a team bonding trip from my football club, Aston Villa, so we went on a pub crawl around Mead. So we started in Navan, then we went to Kilberry, and then we were in Screen, then Trim, then back in Navan. And we started at like 3 o'clock in the day. And now I can't drink lager, I can only drink bourbon, so I was straight on the Jack Daniels for the whole day and the night. And when I woke up this morning, I was dizzy. Remember that scene from like Lord of the Rings where Gandalf was there spinning on the floor? That was me in bed.
Wow, Martin, you're a real man if you can only drink bourbon. Like, you know, I thought you were going to say something like, "I'm only on like
Baby Shams or something."
Baby Shams or a bug for an orange. You like?
Yeah.
I may be 27 years of age, but I'm an old spirit.
With the age, Mark, you're significantly younger than me and Rich. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I'll quickly tell you, I went out yesterday and had a few drinks, but probably not quite in Martin's state. But yeah, I managed to get up in time for the 5 o'clock kickoff at least. Anyway, so there you go.
Yeah, well, there you go. And it's good we did.
Rich, how are you though? We haven't even asked how you are.
I'm all right. I said to Martin, I'm still. I got back from America last week, and I'm still adjusting to the jet lag. I think it's partly because my family came to visit on Tuesday, like immediately after we got back, and had to obviously entertain them till Friday. So yeah, I've literally felt like I've been dragged back through a hedge backwards this week, just trying to adjust back to UK. But yeah, all good, and it's been good to have the pod. Loads of stuff going on with the pod. I mean, 2,100 subscribers, lads, already, which is crazy. Anyone who hasn't yet, please do check out my video celebrating the 2,000 subscribers, because you can enter into the competition to win either a Villa home shirt or a Villa away shirt, which I don't have on the screen at the moment, with a player name of your choice on the back. All you need to do is watch that video that I've done, like the video, comment on the video, and make sure you're subscribed. So we're getting close to 100 entrants so far. So if your name's not in the hat, you haven't got a chance of winning. So do make sure you do that, and do continue to hit the like button, and do subscribe if you're new to the channel to help us continue to grow. Lads, Aston Villa 3, Brentford 3. We'll talk the game. And we'll talk overall kind of thoughts on the summer series, but just in general, I mean, if this summer series is anything to go by, Kev, Villa are going to be a pretty entertaining watch this season.
Yeah, it's a couple of 3-3 draws in three matches. Yeah, and obviously a good away win against Fulham. I know it wasn't really an away win, but because we were second in the way they talked about it, I'm classing that as a successful away win. Yeah, we're the great entertainers now, aren't we? We are the great entertainers. As Martin put in our group earlier, that scene from Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
With Russell Crowe with his arms outstretched. And I'll tell you what was the most pleasing thing about the game today. Look, listen, we can do all the old points around pre-season, fitness, rotating teams, players coming back from international games, blah, blah, blah. We went 2-0 down and we came back in 10 minutes to be leading the game. And there was a spell of the game today where I just thought, I think we're going to win the entire lot of trophies we're going for at one. It was just unbelievable the way we were playing for a period of time. Brilliant.
Exactly. We'll get to comments in a bit, but Martin, I mean, we touched on it on Friday. I think we were doing a pod,
Yeah,
and we touched on it to say like how refreshing it is to see like certain moves and passing sequences that have been clearly set up on the training ground coming into fruition, not just to create chances, but to score goals on the actual pitch.
yeah, exactly, and it's been absolutely fantastic from everybody, really. Like, he's been experimenting with players and different positions. Some have excelled, some probably haven't. Like, it's pre-season, but at the same time, for the amount of goals that we've scored has been incredible. But it's not just the amount that we've scored; it's the quality in the way we've scored them, and that's just been unbelievable to watch. Like, I know, I'm not the most optimistic fan when it comes to pre-season or anything like that, but sometimes you have to get a bit excited when you see things, and I am looking forward now to the season ahead because it looks like we've been playing some really good, entertaining football. Obviously, some high-scoring games, which I'm not too bothered by it, but it just the football we played is really entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got already great numbers watching. Willie is in the house. Evening, Adamski. G'day, lads. Dunk's in the house. Rachel is in the house. AVFC US. Marine Boy. AVFC US says Matty Cash discovered his left foot. Gary says I can only eat bourbon creams.
Thanks,
Adamski, we'll come on to that in a minute, mate. Duncan and Rachel will come on to Diaby as well. Gary said a good bonding trip, all in all. Should do it every pre-season. Green Villains in the house.
What about Martin's night out then, or the pre-season tour?
Oh.
That was a good one.
Yeah, probably both.
I'll do my bottom trip and drink what I'm drinking. I don't think somebody's would last.
Yeah. Rachel said we were improving all the time from last pre-season to this. It's so night and day. I was actually thinking that, we were obviously we just started the pod pretty much last season, at this point last season. Yeah. And we had we were trying to clutch at so many straws, even though we technically had better results. I think the opposition that we played were nowhere near, but we were clutching at straws, Kev, about kind of trying to say we've had decent results and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, when you look at like that preseason to this preseason, it's almost night and day.
It'd be interesting to listen back to a couple of those, because I'm sure we would have been quite stoic and positive about obviously what we're doing, but I bet there wouldn't be the same sort of vim and vigor in our approach, because I think we're all fairly cock a hoop about some of the stuff that we've seen over the whole Unai Emery era and this pre-season. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's we drew against Walsall, didn't we? So it's been
drew against Walsall.
It's been 3 draws and 1 win. And obviously last pre-season we beat, Brisbane Roar. I think we beat Leeds. We beat Stade Rennais. Came back from 2 down against Man United. So you're right. I think we won most of our games except for the Man United game. I think we won all the others. And, we knew something wasn't quite right. I still think we've got a couple of questions unanswered. But back then, we had probably 100 questions to be answered. And now we've probably got about 4. So yeah, it's night and day. It absolutely is. And I think the good thing for me to see, obviously, as a fan, as people more talk about us in the media, but I stayed on watching the coverage on Sky a bit afterwards as they led into the Chelsea Fulham game. And the presenter, she asked both Stephen Warnock and Tim Howard who the team had impressed most. I don't know if you saw this. And they both unanimously said Aston Villa. They said like they watched us train during the week, which is a real treat to get to see some of the stuff behind the scenes, what we do. Just in terms of the way that we play, in terms of, they even specifically said, like, we'll be going to places like Stamford Bridge, Howard said, and Old Trafford. And people will be thinking, I'm not sure this is going to be as convincing. And I think we felt that last season. Once Emery got in, we won't. I remember even saying in the run-in pod, the only game I was worried about was Wolves away. And look, we obviously lost that. But other than that, I mean, I don't really think anyone causes much trouble. Man City aside, I ain't bothered about playing anybody. And even now with this team we've got, I think the way we use the ball, the way we build it up from the back, the way we've got, I think we've got goals in the team now more than just, you know, the reliance on Watkins, as has been proven on this tour. But there are still a few question marks, but I'm sure we can come on to those later on.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, obviously, we started the game. I thought we actually started the game really well, Martin, but maybe one or two of those questions were kind of raised by us going 2-0 down, you know, fairly quickly. One of them was obviously a penalty. Maybe it's getting caught with that high line. And the second one was a great goal, but Pau Torres probably not used to that left back position, getting caught maybe a little bit flat footed. But, you know, one or two little questions raised, and that high line in particular has been capitalized on a couple of times during this tournament.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I think a lot of managers now kind of got on to that. You know, Unai Emery likes to play a high line, so basically tried to stay on side. That's what Thomas Frank was doing in his halftime team talk. Stay on side, and we're in. And I thought the penalty wasn't a penalty because, as far as I'm aware, it's in the rules that if you can get your shot away, and even though there was a foul after it, then it's deemed not a penalty. And your man did get the shot away, and I know it did the foul there, but he got the shot away, so technically he played on himself. So it really shouldn't be given a penalty. And then the worldie look, that was just one of them things that was just right in the top corner. No keeper was saving it. I give credit where it's due. It was a great goal. And we probably didn't deserve to be 2-0 down in that instance because we were playing the better football, but they just kind of capitalised with that penalty and then just getting a worldie, which can happen to any team.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. It can, but I guess obviously you put that question up, Martin, about what that Adam asked about that pre-season. You know, should we necessarily be worried? I'll come to you first, Kev. I'll have my opinion on it in a second, but would you be slightly worried about that?
Yeah, I popped that question because I thought it was obviously quite pertinent to what we're discussing at the time. In case Martin was a bit confused there, like, did I?
Sorry, mate.
I'm not too concerned, right? Because the fact is, we've had different teams in all 6 of the halves that we've played. Pretty much, you know, they've changed the team in most of the games. There's only a couple of players, haven't they? Kept going. That is going to happen in the Premier League, and he's trying out different systems. If you look what's happened so far, he's tried out obviously Digne as that marauding wing back, and then keeping the fairly sturdy 3 in defence. He's flipped it today with Cash. Torres is playing an unfamiliar role. Second half, obviously, you've got Konsa coming off, you've got Carlos coming on, you've got Chambers coming on a right back. So I think it's inevitable. And look at some of the other teams. You know, there's been a lot of goals in this whole competition. They keep talking about it in all the coverage. There's been a lot of goals, you know, a lot of entertainment. I don't think it'll be like that. The high line does concern me, but I saw you pop that comment up from Duncan there. I only saw maybe 1 or 2 replays of it, but I think he was just about in his own half.
He was.
So it therefore would have been a goal. But I do find there was one the other day which I think should have been given offside, and it wasn't. In some of the build-up and one of the games I saw. Obviously, there's no VAR, and I think Villa's high line is so meticulous now how they've worked on that actually, if it is going to be a fraction, you're going to catch them offside. Under the old system, you might not get away with it, you know, human error, but now you've got much more chance of that being a bit more robustly applied, of course. I know there's still a bit of contentious sort of decisions in VAR, but you're more likely that's going to stick out for you. So as much as it still worries me a bit, I remember it happened, I think it was when we lost those 2 games, Leicester Spurs, and we kept going with it. And I don't really recall too many issues since then, because I think we were talking about it back in February, March time, thinking, crikey, this is a worry.
Yeah.
I just have to trust Unai. So
yeah.
The goals conceded, if this was a regular team, he's still trying things out. I think once you've got that settled, I think the questions for him are what back 4 or whatever system is he going to play? Is he going to play? That's the main thing, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think you basically said everything I was going to say. I think, yeah, definitely the personnel changes obviously has an effect in those positions that they're playing in. Even in front of him as well, you know, the midfielders that are playing in front of him. The fact that the other teams, you know, Brighton, Chelsea was 4-3, Newcastle Villa was 3-3. I think Fulham, Brentford was 3-2. So, you know, lots of other teams have conceded, you know, goals, and I guess that happened when, even though I'll put John's point up here. So I think people should stop slagging players off in pre-season. It's only about experimenting with tactics and getting minutes in the legs. It's basic training games. It doesn't matter. And I do agree with that to a certain extent. What I would say about this, though, is that these games are, I would say, in between. I'd say they're a bit more kind of competitive than a pre-season game, like a normal conventional pre-season friendly, but obviously not as intense as a Premier League game. So like there are times where you see players not necessarily putting everything into a challenge. We'll come on to the Konsa goal. Like that wouldn't happen in the Premier League. There's just no chance. But also they're playing in front of big crowds. They're playing against teams that they're going to face in the Premier League later on this year. And the manager, as we talked about with Gareth on Talking Tactics, the managers of both teams will have certain objectives that they want to get out of those games. Won't necessarily be the score, although it'd be nice to win. It was interesting. Thomas Frank was interviewed before the game by the same commentators and pundits as you mentioned, Kev, and they said, like, what have you thought about this? And he said, like, well, we've played really, really well, even though the performances, the results haven't gone our way, and we've got things out of it, pretty much everything out of it that we wanted to. So there you go. That kind of answers your question. But obviously, it would have been nice to win.
And also today, I mean, it's obviously mentioned that the Silva goal was an absolute worldie. It was the penalty was a penalty. It just was. I mean, I think as much as he got a strike on goal, he did it as he was being clattered into. And then the third goal was basically nearly another absolute worldie.
Yeah,
which bounced out, and then anything can happen in that melee. So, are you normally going to get a game where a team basically scores two goals from two unbelievable strikes from the edge of outside the box? And then a penalty, I just don't think that's that regular. It doesn't happen that often. And we obviously had our other chances. And I don't know, I felt like we had that burst of the 3 goals. And I thought we probably, like it might happen in a pre-season game. We had a need to get back into the game when we were losing. Once we got ahead, we kind of took our foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think before we talk about our goals and some of the positives and stuff of the performances, I think generally the games are like 65, 70-minute games. And after that, it becomes a little bit of a scrappy, a bit of a mess, really. Both teams are making changes. It's difficult for the subs coming on with 15, 20 minutes to go to get anything like into the game. They're just descending to a bit of a like what is a true preseason game, whereas the first 65, 70 minutes, they are actually, quite competitive. But nonetheless, it was very, like I say, it was really worthwhile. Let's just see some comments. So Rachel said, I think the line is higher than last season, but I don't think it will be as high when the season starts. Gary says, not having VAR was good to see, free-flowing football. Adam says, I can see 3 centre-back teams being our European team. Maybe so. Gary agrees it was definitely a pen. Adamski, 100% preseason of competitive practice matches. We could literally see all types of things Unai was trying, unlike recent preseasons. Adam says, hope this tournament becomes a regular thing. I think it was good. It was good. Gary's got a conspiracy theory. He started that one. Martin, maybe these teams are asked to make the games entertaining for American audiences. Who knows?
Not a bad one.
Yeah, Nigel said it's been good. Shape looks good. Tried new stuff. Blooded some kids. Can work on some things, but looking good. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good summing up there. Adamski makes sense from a marketing aspect. Marine boy, positives unbeaten, negatives 6 goals conceded. We'll come to that Ben Mee one after. Let's have a look. So, sorry, Adam says, excellent first half with practice, new formation could work. And Gary said, went 2-0 down and nice to see Unai tactics do their thing. If that was Gerrard, it would have been 4-0.
That's a fact.
Yeah. Talking of tactics, Martin, I think the memes are going around that as soon as Thomas Frank got his tactics board out in the drinks break, telling them that Villa were going through the middle, literally 30 seconds later, Ezri Konsa runs through the middle of the whole Brentford team and smashes it in the top corner. And you mentioned the what was it? The English Cafu, was it, or the
He's
English Alan
English
Hutton?
Alan Hutton.
There we go. He was halfway to the White House.
I think he's still running now. I think he's in Birmingham nearly. But what a goal! I mean, it wasn't as if, and you know what else was like? It was nearly like a prime Yaya Toure, like when he scored that goal against us as well. As much as much as I hated that, like Yaya Toure at times with that goal, you just couldn't do anything about it. But this was one of them goals, and the fact when he got there, like the defenders didn't come in to actually close him down; they kept going back, and he just looked up. There he is in goal, and he side foots it into the top corner. Such a striker's finish. And as soon as I seen the goal, I was like, "What just happened there?" Because unbelievable. Like you just kept going and going and going. It's like Forrest Gump. Just keep going till you eventually get there. Like so, I was delighted. I think it was a great goal. And with Thomas Frank, he was getting the ball out. He was giving it the really big one. 20 seconds later, Konsa does a Forrest Gump run, and it's 2-1. And then we got to go back another one. Then so.
Absolutely, Kev. What are your thoughts? I mean, I actually thought that when he ran through, I thought he kept real good composure because I think it might have been Diaby. It was out on the pulled out to the right, and Watkins obviously pulled out to the left, and the defenders didn't know whether to come and pressure him or kind of stay where they are. And then all of a sudden, it just opened up for him. And most defenders, when it gets to that point, they just smash it over the bar. But yeah, like I say, great composure.
It was some goal. I think Hutton's goal obviously has a special place in our hearts because it was in a local derby against obviously our fiercest rivals. It cemented the victory in that game because obviously they got it back to 3-2.
Yeah, in terms of the context of it,
yeah. Clearly, it was a much bigger game. But the quality of this goal, when he took it from his own heart, near his own box, basically, and then you might maybe you would have got scythed down. There were some pretty tasty tackles.
Yeah, they did try at the start, but I think it was the one when he was kind of in between the penalty box and the halfway line. There was someone who come across, and I thought that they would have just took him down.
Yeah, but it was also clearly a situation when they thought he's not going to shoot. But
yeah.
But the quality of the finish, the crispness of the strike. If Villa score a better goal than that this season, I'll be amazed. It was an absolute worldie. I couldn't believe it. And then obviously that was then lit the blue touch paper, didn't it, for our comeback?
Yeah. Well,
we put up a picture of what a goal by Konsa, and I literally showed him just tackle your man before he went on your run.
Yeah. It was great. A few comments. Konsa and Cash never score, so good to see. Adam says better than Son's goal of the season. Where's this? We'll come back to that one, Gary. Someone on Insta commented Mara Konsa. Thought it was great. So obviously a brilliant goal. And then, like you said, Kev, just then we kind of got the bit between our teeth. We started to get the ball wide. Philogene and Moussa Diaby started to cause real problems. Louise was just imperious in that midfield, and McGinn started to get space. And obviously it was McGinn who got through the middle and teed up. Oh, sorry, that was Cash. Sorry, it was Diaby who scored the second goal. Another great finish, cut inside, and teams seem to be already scared to see which side he's going to go. Because he seems pretty lethal going either side, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he looks like at the moment like he's a definite upgrade on Bailey, doesn't he?
100%. 100%. Like I say, it may be the slightly different players, but in terms of just that next level up, obviously it's difficult to say he hasn't played a Premier League game. But in terms of just that taking of chances, that kind of ruthless streak in front of goal,
quality on the ball as well, I think.
And link up with Watkins already. There was some really nice little bits where, even though they didn't link up in terms of passing, Watkins would drop off short. He knew when to run in behind, or vice versa. Diaby would come short and he'd go in behind. And what was interesting to see as well, Martin, was that Philogene Bidace was getting involved in that kind of movement as well. It was almost like the three of them kind of knew where each other were going to be.
Yeah, and that man is grown with confidence in each game he does. Getting the ball from left. I seen when he won the corner, he just gets the ball from the left and he just wanted to ping it. And you give credit where it's due. Probably anyone who was coming into the senior side probably would have seen Louise. Oh yeah, I'll pass it to him, and he does whatever with it. But no, he went for himself, got a corner out of it, and he even attempted a bicycle kick. You have to give credit where
Oh
it's
yeah, that was brilliant. That
imagine if he
Was
caught
it?
that
It was
really
terrible.
sweetly and scored. Like
Hey?
we would have been saying that's it. Just start him. Just start him.
Yeah, I know. He
But
struck
like,
it well. He should have left it for Diaby though. To be fair,
yeah,
but
Diaby was kind of there.
you
But look,
can't you can't let the kid.
no,
he-
you can't knock the
no,
attempt. That's
no.
something that I like. And yeah, but like on Watkins and Diaby with their movements as well, it was just really good to see because then when McGinn or whoever shifts into that middle like 10 row, they've got three options straight away. Right? Do I go centre with Watkins? Do I go left with Bidace? Do I go right with Diaby? It gets you thinking. Now I know in a match you probably just go with the first natural instinct, but it was just really refreshing to see that the three lads up top will give defenders something to think about, which we have not seen for like God knows how long in a Villa game. And that's just something really to look forward to now this year.
Yeah, and pace, Kev, raw pace. I mean,
Yeah.
when have we had? How long has it been since we've had that real raw pace down both sides of the pitch? And
From
Watkins
before
isn't
I was
any
born.
slouch either.
Yeah,
From
I know.
before I was born, was it?
Way before you were born, I think, Mark. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's personally I remember. You know, obviously Gabby was fast back in the day. Tony Daly was absolutely rapid. But you know, really, for us to have a front three or four that have got pace like that, yeah, I think Philogene and Bidace. Look, we say the usual old points. It's pre-season, and I don't want to don't want this to be a Leon Bailey knocking pod from me because you know I've made a few points about him in the past, and I know he's just come back in from being away, but. If you were looking at a situation now about saying who's most likely at the moment to start, if you were going to play someone in a wide role out of Bidace and Bailey, I'd say that's a way more than a toss up than we would have imagined it would be right now, based on the pre-season so far.
Well, Kevin, you're just using your bias on not liking Bailey. So I mean, by all means, you're going with Bidace all day long.
No, I think it's difficult to say like whether. I think it's just great to have those three as options, and certainly Bidace has put himself in that frame. Now, does that mean that if a bid comes in for Leon Bailey that we would maybe look at it? Maybe. Does it mean that he now stays around the squad rather than going out on loan? I certainly think that is an option. But also maybe Diaby isn't. He also started in behind Watkins, you know, first up, and then they've kind of had free movement from there. So could you have a scenario where the three of them are playing behind Watkins at some point, you know? So I think it's important to have all of those options that are available to us, and I think they all bring something slightly different to the table. Like I think when we talk the second half in a little bit, but I think you'd probably have had a similar situation. I think Philogene Bidace has been fantastic the whole time, and he's obviously started every game. And I think the timing of, you know, Diaby coming in, the timing of Bailey coming back from his international duty and his break, I think it's worked in his favour because he's kind of had to start the games because those players haven't had the time to kind of get running. But you've got to grasp your opportunity. But I do think that if Philogene Bidace had have come on with 15 minutes to go, I think it would have been kind of the same state of play for him. You know, it's almost impossible unless you first touch and goes into the top corner. Like the Brentford players were exactly the same. Like all their later substitutions, they couldn't really get into the game, which is why the game kind of descended into the way it did. But that being said, obviously, like Diaby just looks sharp. He just looks like a different level of player that we've been missing. And I think people agree with that. AVFC US says Philogene Bidace looks an upgrade on Bailey. Duncan says Diaby is a different level. Matt C says Diaby looks a massive threat. Coutinho will come on to, but it's not. Matt's not a fan. Duncan said 2 goals, 2 games, 2 goals for Diaby. Dream Villain said Philogene's first team career was born in the USA. And Gary says Bidace is a nice problem to have. Thought he was finished at Villa. And either way, like if we get money for him, I think it's an absolute bonus if he does decide to move on. But yeah, we obviously didn't end the half 2-2. We kept it going, and another cracking goal. Martin, we saw Matty Cash, like Kev mentioned before, playing that reverse role. Like Torres on the left was the one that stayed back a little bit more, and it was Cash that was marauding in a bit more down that right hand side, and it came to it paid off with another lovely ball from McGinn, finding that space in the middle, lays it off. Cash cuts inside and dispatches it with his left foot, similar to the goal he scored against Leeds at Ellen Road a couple of seasons ago.
Exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, it's almost identical goal, cutting it from the right hand side. I remember thinking at the time, I didn't know he could strike it so well with his left foot. We're talking about Diaby being two-footed, but maybe our answer to our left back problem, if Dina gets injured, is to play Cash there and play Chambers right back or something. I don't know, Konsa right back, because it's some finish, wasn't it? Smashed it in.
Great finish. I mean, there were some fantastic finishes on display today. Like, I mean, we talked before, if that Brentford third goal had gone in, that would have been an unbelievable goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously went in at 3-2. As I said, slight disappointment that we couldn't hold it off and win the game. But it is what it is. We had a couple of other opportunities in that second half, and I thought up until that 70th minute, some of our football lads was just a joy to watch. Like just the patient passing it through the thirds, link up play, and then there was chances created off the back of it. I've not seen football like that for so long, Martin. It's unreal.
Oh, like it was just unbelievable to watch. Like, and don't get me wrong, at times it probably got a little bit sloppy, but that was probably due to the heat that both teams are playing in. It's going to happen when two teams are pressing. The heat comes into effect, and when you start making changes. But at times, Brentford just looked like they were clueless, headless chickens looking at the ball. Where's it gone? And it was absolutely brilliant to watch. It was just. I know. Again, I say I'm not the most optimistic person in preseason, but at the same time, when I was watching this football, I was like, this is unbelievable, because yes, in one way, this is a competitive game because it's something to win. But at the same time, he was experimenting with this time with Matty Cash being on the right side of the attack and Pau Torres staying back as a left back. And the football that we were playing, just tiki-taka stuff, it was just unbelievable to watch. And that's something I've not seen Villa ever do. We've always been the team who sat back and catch you on the counter. Where for us now to be a possession-based team, that's something really to look forward to for any Villa fan in Villa Park or away from Villa Park.
Yeah, definitely. So, Kev, who has impressed you from these last three games? Who from the Villa side's really impressed you?
Well, look, you might have just mentioned obviously there that some of the football today. I only saw the first bit of the Newcastle game because obviously it was so late. And it was that first sort of 20 minutes, I was like, again, wowed by the way we were just, the way we were taking the ball forward or in transition, as obviously it's known these days. For me, it's the bravery of the passes. I'm seeing them play passes. I'm thinking, that's not on. Oh, God, it's got through. That's not on. That's got through. The confidence they've got to play the ball in tight spaces, to turn. There's always an option. I just think some of the football has been brilliant. In terms of standouts, what I've seen, I think I didn't see much of Tielemans, but by ball accounts, he played really well. Obviously, in the Fulham game, I think Luiz has looked his usual tidy.
Yeah, I think Luiz was his best game today. I thought. Yeah, I thought it was his best game.
Kamara did really well today. I thought he looked good. Some good touches.
I've been I thought after the first sort of 5-10 minutes, I thought he was really good. I would say on Kamara, but I think it comes to your point about the bravery, Kev. He has made one or two errors that have caused chances or goals that maybe, and that kind of seeped into last season as well. But like I said, I think Emery's going to continue to ask him to keep doing that. So I think we're just going to have to get used to it.
Yeah, and I think he kind of got it out of his game. He had a couple of errors, didn't he, that Leicester game. Then he was, again, I don't think there was too many then since then. So maybe put it down to pre-season. So I think the midfield generally has looked decent. McGinn's been great every game I've seen him in. I think Mings has been solid. I thought Diego Carlos did well second half today. I know he got a bit of grief at the end of the day, but I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, he played really well against Fulham as well. Carlos, I think he loves those physical battles. I think where he might struggle is if he comes up against a really, like if he came up against a Diaby. So it's actually probably quite good that Diaby's in our team, because in training he can kind of improve against that type of player. Martin, what about yourself? Who's kind of impressed you? Would you agree on those with Kev, or would you have any other additions?
I've really been impressed with Bidace. I've been impressed, obviously, with Diaby. I tell you what, I've really been impressed with Tielemans. He's been solid. I think
it's like he's been with Villa for
it's nearly 2
years.
It's like it's just fit in, and obviously there was this talk, he's burnt out because he's played 500 games and he's only 25, but it didn't take him long to whip himself into shape, and there's a bit more rest time for him now, where at Leicester he was probably playing every single game, so you probably could argue that there was a case he was burnt out, but he's played really, really well for us, and it's good to see that there's a headache now in midfield and not just having to rely on a midfield three that we were, Louise, Ramsey and McGinn for so long. And nothing against the players, they are quality, but at the same time, you want healthy competition to keep players on their toes, and Tielemans has come in to say, look, I want to be one of the starters, and I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, and 100% agree. And I know we were commenting in the group, in our WhatsApp group, that there's Ramsey and Moreno still to come to this, which is quite mad. And obviously, like the likes of Bailey, if he's going to be around, the likes of Coutinho, if he's going to be around, to get to full fitness. It's a scary proposition, from having like 0 players and options on the bench at times last season to having the likes of a Ramsey, a Coutinho, a Bailey, a Luka Dean if Moreno's fit, a Carlos or a Torres if Konsa and Mings are playing. Like, it's just absolutely crazy to think of these options that we've got on the bench to come through. Like, I mean, all of a sudden now we've got players that can come in for other players that won't necessarily harm the team too much, which this time last season at stages last season we were kind of praying that no one would get injured.
Rich, I thought exactly the same when we made those 4 substitutes today. I remember thinking to myself, I don't feel the team has been weakened at all. And I had a little moment to myself, and I was like, oh, when was the last time, when you bring in a sub on, you're like, oh God, we brought on, drink water or
Trezeguet,
Baston, or yeah. Crikey, what are we going to do here? Yeah, Samatta, yeah. So that really bodes well for the future, because look, I even think now, even if we got a crazy bid in for, say, Douglas Luiz, you've arguably got enough midfield strength to cope with it. I'd probably say Luiz is probably my favourite player in the team at the moment. So over the last year,
he's so good at the moment. Like, I've given him a lot of stick like 2 or 3 years ago when he first came in, hiding from the ball and maybe, trying too much or not really being that role that he, maybe playing his own game rather than the team game. But now, I mean, you could see why Champions League clubs are really looking at him seriously, because he's almost getting to that stage where he's like, he's that level above, like in midfield. Like, he's just, I would argue to say that every time he's been on the pitch, he's been the best midfielder on display, from both teams.
I agree. And that midfield is so stacked for us now, when it was so often our weakness midfield. It's so stacked now. And I think it almost highlights then, I still feel we need another striker. We need another fairly physical striker, maybe, because I love Archer. I think he's great. I think Archer's got a lot of plaudits, quite rightly, from everything he's done. It didn't go for him today when he came on. I think he makes some good runs, but is he good enough to replace Watkins in that team? Watkins, I think, got a lot of grief today. Finally missed a couple of chances. I thought his link-up play was really good. I thought his whole play was really good. I think he's integral to the way that we play. When Watkins goes off, it does weaken our team. It does.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, lots of comments coming in. and I'll come back in a bit. But Adam says Buendia's had a good pre-season so far. AVFC US says, I thought it was excellent against Newcastle, but very average otherwise, which is I would tend to agree with. Dream Villa says Buendia looked good. Gary says defence needs a bit of tinkering, but midfield is fine. One more attacker if Duran isn't ready. That's what you've been saying, which we'll come on to shortly. Sharik is in the house, late to the stream, but Watkins finishing so poor again. Pre-season or not, averages 1 goal per 7 chances. Buendia poor, Coutinho poor. Torres rinsed at left back. Bidace and Diaby both impressive. I thought Torres probably grew into the game, but I'd tend to lean towards. I think Coutinho maybe it's a little bit difficult to kind of give too much of a judgment on, but I would say on the Buendia situation. And again, we don't want to criticize in pre-season too much at all, but the problem is that you go from, like we were talking, Martin, the other day about him sparkling against Newcastle and like just integral to everything, and then like against Fulham it was quite a frustrating one for him, and then today I don't think he passed the ball to a Villa player like when he came on, and it's just that's the frustrating thing with someone like an Emi Buendia, where he's a match winner on one day, and then on 2 other occasions he's almost a liability for you, and it's really difficult to kind of sum him up.
Yeah, and at the same time, we had a great game against Newcastle because Newcastle are going to want to be a possession-based team, fairly open in their spaces. So a player like Emi Buendia will exploit that. However, with Fulham and Brentford, 2 teams who like to sit deep and catch on the counter, and I wouldn't say more or less Fulham, they'll sit deep and catch on the counter, but Brentford's fairly more tactical. They like to close the space in middle areas of the pitches, and that's where a player like Buendia will struggle. But a player like Tielemans and Louise will look for them little bits of spaces to unlock. Hence, Louise was able to do that from the start of play. The 3rd goal into McGinn into Cash, and we got a goal from there. But yeah, no, I agree, because it is a bit of a reoccurring thing now with Buendia that he's one unbelievable game, and we're thinking we want to see more of this. To the next game, he's like not even there. It was like John McGinn for how long, where he was unbelievable one game in the Premier League, and then he was gone for like 5 or 6. Same with Louise. At one point, he had 1 in every 12, which you used to say, Rich, was your most famous thing. So maybe there might still be a bit of time for Buendia to really improve, and we could be loving him like we do Louise and McGinn. But I don't know with it, because it just seems like maybe is he lacking with the confidence because of the competition? Like he played one game, like get a point to prove, and now with these other ones, it's like I don't know now because I'm not getting my games, but and frustration was kicking in. But you never know. Like I said, it's pre-season. I don't read too much into it, but at the same time, you have to look at some points.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those, isn't it? I'm sure he will want to kind of keep himself going through. But do you think, Kev, that he'll end up being? We've had this situation with him before where he'll be dropped for a game, then he'll come on in that game and he'll make a massive impact. Then he'll start the next game and not quite be as good. Do you think we're kind of destined for that again with Emi Buendia, or because I really want him to start and I really want him to be that kind of magic number 10 or whatever for us?
I was so pleased when he bodied Sandro Tonali for that goal against Newcastle. I was so pleased, and I just saw, from what I saw of that game, he looked absolutely brilliant. And I thought, wow, maybe he's put on a bit of muscle and he's maybe found a bit of confidence, and maybe the system's working better for him. And then since then, he's back to the usual situation. I feel like every time I go down the Villa last season, Martin, look at you getting the plaudits. Absolutely rightly. Yeah, every time I go down the Villa, I find myself, maybe I've now already got it in my head that I'm going to talk about Bailey when Bailey does anything bad. And some people have got like that with Buendia, and I'm probably a bit more forgiving for Buendia, and others are a bit more forgiving to Bailey. But it feels to me like they're the 2 most maligned players.
Similar. And
it's moved on, because it used to be Mings and Louise that used to get it.
Yeah.
Watkins used to get it. Then he went on an unbelievable purple patch the second half of last season. Then he's the second coming of Christ, and now he's
players that have gotten it. So
Yeah, and now obviously Watkins is getting it. Some of the comments and some of the people talking on Twitter, and so it's some of these players. As the squad gets better, there'll be more options. I think the players can't rest on the laurels as much as they might have been able to in the past. The only one that really can. He's only Watkins. He probably really is because obviously there's not that many options behind him that are ready to go.
Yeah. Well,
at his level.
You mentioned Watkins, Kev, so I'll stick with you. And Adam's got a comment there. This is my bugbear that I've been saying for about 4 years. I know we've got Duran, but we need a big man. Give us something different, even if it's isn't someone prolific. But we've obviously got this quandary with Watkins. And would you suggest that? Well, one, do we need that kind of different option up top? And two, would you suggest that Watkins is a little bit of a worry in terms of that clinical finisher? I mean, my point about the clinical finisher is that if he was that clinical, he wouldn't be playing for Aston Villa. So this is kind of, I know we're in that quandary of kind of moving up the levels, but we're talking about bigger clubs like wanting him. Like people talk about Man United and Bayern Munich, and obviously I've said my thing about Tottenham. So he's either at that level or he's not at that level, and in which case we're lucky to have him at Villa if those type of clubs are after him. Or, like I say, do we need other options?
I don't know, because I think for the 2 chances that came to him, I think he was a bit unlucky with the heavy touch around the keeper, which can happen to any striker, not just Ollie Watkins. And then the second one, he probably didn't expect it because the keeper was there. But the commentator said it rightly, and I kind of said in my head straight away, why didn't he slide down for it? Would have given him a goal. But I think maybe, and I seen this commentary, and I'll get it from Gary. Watkins needs competition surely, unless he signs soon. So maybe is it the case that Watkins is more or less settled, that he's not going to have a competition, he's going to play, he's going to do whatever, it doesn't matter what he does, and he just start every week. So he probably does need the competition, or he's probably holding out for a big move, like you said, Rich. So I don't know with him. I'm a bit 50-50 now at the minute with him. I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated. I'm turning to Sam slowly, but I don't want to go full Sam.
Yeah. I mean, Kev, I'll come to you now as well, but a few people talk about Buendia. We'll mix that up into the kind of the Watkins chat, but I will go through lots of comments. I didn't realize we had so many. So I'll go. Rub says Buendia had a decent preseason overall. There are others who had more questionable ones. Duncan said Buendia will be more of a sub this year. Weston says Buendia is an enigma, plays world class in one game, then goes missing in the next 3. Adam says prime. People expect too much from Buendia. Is not prime Hazard. And then Sharik says, serious question. What is he good at actually? Passing, dribbling, doesn't seem to have any particular quality that is outstanding.
Is Sharik on about Watkins there or Buendia?
Buendia.
Okay. I thought he was on about Watkins when I saw the comment.
But no, yes, on about Buendia, but it's as I say, we've. I want him. Like I say, I want him to do well. I want all of our players to do well. He is just a frustration. I think Weston sums it up by there being an enigma. But yeah, in terms of Watkins as well, we've got. Might have been under Gerrard, but Watkins still had an awful period where he just couldn't score. Can't blame Gerrard for missing sitters. Gary says can't play Watkins every game. Someone has to help us in the cups. Archer isn't ready for Europe. Adamski says we need a striker who gets on the end of crosses for headers. We don't really have that. AVFC US says he had a competition with Ings last year and didn't seem to help him. Martin said Watkins should have had 3 comfortable goals today. He wasn't even prepared to slide in to stick the ball in the net. Terrible performance again. Dream Villain said if Watkins becomes comfortable having no competition, he will become complacent. Rachel said the only thing I can think of is maybe Watkins wasn't trying to get injured, so didn't go full throttle to get the goal. I don't know. And Duncan says Lukaku's being linked. Kev, there's a lot of comments there on Watkins, and I guess both Buendia, who we've covered, and Watkins are both the players at the moment that are dividing the most opinion. But I would tend to agree with you in terms of the kind of link up. I thought it was quite impressive, but ultimately is a striker purely judged on the goals, like, or is Diaby going to be that kind of main foil for him now? Is Diaby going to contribute with 10, 15, hopefully, and then Watkins chips in with his usual 10, 15? Because I can't see him getting 20 goals. I just don't think that's his kind of level.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great comments, guys. Thanks for that. And there's a lot to unpack really with this point, because look, the first thing I'll say is he hasn't signed his contract yet. So if he does go somewhere else, I'll be surprised. But I mean, strange things have happened. And then what do we do? Then we've got to go into a market to get a striker, and we know it's the hardest position to buy. I mean, obviously, Man United have just basically spent 70 million on someone that no one's ever heard of, basically. So, and look at what we did over the years when we were trying to get strikers in. It's been difficult. Wesley was 22 million, and even before the injury, Ben Mee was up to his usual tricks again today. Tried to, but even before that injury, I still felt he probably wasn't at it. And Samatta was 15 million, was he ish, and he didn't look very good. So Watkins has got 40 Premier League goals in 3 seasons. We know the stats about how behind Kane and Salah, for 3 seasons in a row, he's been the only person to get double figures. It's not for me about replacing Watkins. If the situation arises, we need to replace him. That's a whole different podcast conversation. It's about having adequate support with Watkins. I get the point around Ings and him last season didn't work, but I think that's maybe more to do with the situation of how we were playing as a team. Buendia, I'm less worried about, because I think we've got enough options. When Ramsey's fit, and if Coutinho stays around, admittedly, he's not been great pre-season, but if you've got those two, you've got a Philogene Bidace, you've got if Bailey stays around, you've got enough players in those kind of, especially with McGinn now playing further forward, in those sort of attacking midfield type options. Watkins is the concern, because if you take Watkins out of our team, Martinez too, I'd say, is the same for this point. Then all of us, I think, are worried what's there. I think you'd have enough to get past maybe a Bournemouth or a Forest at home. But I really rate Archer. I think he's a real goal scorer. But do we have? Has there ever been success, Archer, so far playing for us? I know he did some great stuff in the cup competitions, but do we have the confidence the way we play that his hold-up play is good enough? Do we have the confidence for what Watkins is good at in the team? And I take the point: strikers should score goals. So I like Archer. I want him to be a big part of the squad. I want him to get chances. I want him to come on when we're chasing goals. But the other point I was going to say is this: we've done some great business this summer so far, and Unai talks about us wanting to get to that next level, and everyone's talking about the project that gets sold. I think surely he can see the worry when Olsen's in goal, and surely he can see the worry with Watkins. He's either not playing, or if he's got form like he's got today. And I'd expect us to do something, but I can't. So far, it looks like nothing's really happening.
Yeah, and like I say, I mean, I think I know I put that thing out of my theory. I mean, Rachel said, could Bayern come in for him? Ollie may take that option if Bayern are interested, maybe. But I think the most likely option is that, and I've already said this, is that Bayern go for Kane, Tottenham come in for Watkins. And yes, people will say, why would he go there? Blah, blah, blah. But look, there's multitude of reasons why he would go to Tottenham. So, but equally, I think there's a huge chance that he's staying and he'll become the best paid player, or one of the best paid players at the club. So, let's see. But I also agree with, I see the people's point where there's people saying that we could look for better. There's I can also see the point. Look, he's one of the best goal scoring centre forwards, of last season. He scored double figures in 3 seasons in a row for Villa in the Premier League. So sometimes you just gotta, sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. With us trying to look for somebody else, if we get someone from a foreign league, you've got to wait for them to settle and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think let's just back him and let's keep going. I think Rubb made a good comment, and I don't think we're being negative, but there's negativity from some. Why Villa just had a great pre-season. We see great football from the team, yet they're focused on criticising. There's so much more positive things going on. Hopefully we'll be being really positive, because we've said who's done really well. I don't think we've really said anyone's had a bad pre-season at all. I think I think there's just little things for other players to work on and for other players to step up. One question I wanted to ask, and obviously everyone's agreeing, like Duncan says, great pre-season. So yeah, and you've mentioned there, Martin, in this private chat that Chelsea won 2-0, so they've obviously won the summer series, unfortunately. But we come out of it unbeaten, which is a good achievement.
Oh.
Well, I wanted to ask you lads, how do you think Emery is going to approach? Given the situation, like with, say, Watkins, the midfield options, the defensive options that we've got, which competition is Emery going to prioritize? Like, because he obviously can't play, Watkins and Diaby in every single Conference League game. He's obviously going to have to play him in the Premier League. He obviously can't play Konsa and Mings if that's his first choice defence in the Conference League and then in the Premier League. So which one is he going to prioritise? Because you'd have to say that the Conference League would be our best chance of silverware. But equally, you've got to get to a good start in the Premier League, haven't you?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I think you do two. You prioritise two, maybe a tour, depending on the run in the cup. I don't think you'll prioritise the League Cup. I think you forget about that. I think he might just a little bit prioritise the FA Cup. And I think he'll prioritise the Conference League and the Premier League together. And the reason I say that I think he might prioritise the FA Cup a little bit is that they're the games that he can use Archer and if up top and then rotate with different players which could help us out if we do draw with teams in the lower end of the table. I don't think you prioritise the League Cup because then it just eliminates a good few games there for Villa. So I think you prioritise two with the Premier League and the Conference League because you want to be finishing high in the league, because I feel like we're building a squad to be able to cope with the two. And that's just something I think that Villa need to do. We need to do well in the league and do well in the Conference League. But I do feel like the rotation, I don't think Watkins and Diaby will play every single game together, but I think maybe the Conference League you might see slight rotations, not too much, but you might see big rotations in the FA Cup and the League Cup.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I guess at first though, Kev, he's going to have a situation where he's got Conference League games coming thick and fast, along with Premier League games coming thick and fast. So how is he going to balance it up? Because there's absolutely no chance that Watkins and Diaby can play those games every week.
Yeah, he's going to have to. At the moment, where it is right now, between more changes, because he's going to have a situation where you're going to be seeing Duran and Archer starting games. You're going to be seeing a situation where Carlos will be getting more minutes. Chambers will be playing. The squad will be utilised. I think you're going to get a situation this season as well, which you can get with some of the big teams, where you'll have some players not even making it into a Premier League squad and then starting in the Carabao Cup or starting in the Conference League. Because we've got players now where the depth of the squad is so good that there'll be players that won't be making the bench for the Premier League games who are probably good enough to start for other Premier League teams. So it's about having that confidence in the squad. Now, to make another positive, optimistic point, this is the best squad I can remember us having, God, maybe since, Ron Atkinson era. I even think, even probably the squad then wasn't that great, but in terms of players, it's as good as I've noticed in the Premier League, probably. So, but do we have that full reliability that, like we say, if he's going to rest Martinez, because say he's been on an Argentinian game and he wants to rest him, and then it's like Olsen drops a clanger in a Conference League away game, and we can see one, or Archer misses a couple of chances, or gets bullied by a couple of big centre halves. The knives are going to be out. So. Yeah, I don't know. And I think he'll prioritise the Conference League and the Premier League. Premier League will be first priority, I think it has to be, and the Conference League as well. But I also know that he'll see the other two cups as a big opportunity to bring silverware. He made these points so many times. He wants to bring a trophy to Aston Villa. I think his best chances are the three cup competitions, But I also think I look at it now, and again, more positivity, optimism, whatever. There's no reason for me why we can't have a crack at the top four. I think there's no reason. But I think the one thing that will hold us back is probably our striking options. But in terms of the teams around us, more likely probably top six. But there's no reason why right now there's not. I don't see Chelsea, Liverpool. I don't see Man United being as strong as they would have been 10, 15 years ago. So, and if we get a good positivity in the dressing room and playing Unai ball, then why not?
Yeah. Rub says, I hope Monchi finds a couple of gems for the striker positions. The market for strikers / goal scorers seems very tough.
Yeah.
Many big clubs need one. Prices are crazy and players are picky. A few people mentioned Tony. A few people mentioning Tammy. Maybe that rumor that Tammy was on his way could have been true. I don't know. But yeah, we will definitely wait and see. Obviously, talking on transfers, we'll cover that quickly. Ferran Torres links aren't going away, Martin. And a few people have commented on that, whether they would want him in the side. Seems pretty desperate to stay at Barcelona. So if he came to Villa, would he be really wanting to play for us? And then obviously Jeremy Doku as well. Sharik says, yeah, would love to get Ferran Torres if he was willing to join. But he thinks transfers are done. What are your thoughts on Ferran Torres and or Doku?
Well, if Ferran Torres is kind of set that he wants to stay in Barcelona and doesn't want to join us or any club, then I personally wouldn't go for it, because the last thing you want to do is buy a player who doesn't want to leave the club. So he might not be up for it. He might just be lazy and hoping that he goes back to that club and loses motivation, where I'd rather go for someone like Jeremy Doku. From what I'm seeing, that apparently we had a £25 million bid rejected and we're going to go in for a second, which has been quiet in the last 2 days. But at the same time, I'm hearing the personal terms don't seem to be an issue. So he must be willing to join Villa, Jeremy Doku. So that's the player I'd go for, as opposed to Ferran Torres, because you don't want someone in the dressing room who doesn't want to be there because he didn't want to leave his club.
Yeah. Any thoughts for you, Kev? I mean, I remember Ferran Torres at Man City early in his career. I haven't seen too much of him at Barcelona. Maybe he's a player who Emery and obviously Monchi knows quite well. Maybe it's a player that Emery can get the best out of. Maybe it's that type of forward player that isn't going to necessarily tread on Watkins' toes, but he's going to give us options, particularly in Europe, as a goal scorer. Or a Doku, if he comes in, is that mean that we're going to be, potentially listening to bids for, say, a Bailey or even a Philogene Bidace?
Yeah, look, I don't. The point around Torres wanting to stay at Barcelona is not quite the same level, but I almost feel like it is the same as Ashley Young with Villa. Like, he wanted to stay at Villa. Once it wasn't happening, he's going to be a professional enough to go and do a proper job for Everton, well, or at least, try his best at his age. So I think that if Torres is made available by Barcelona and he came to us, I'd like to think he would be professional enough to not only want to do a good job, but be also to prove a bit of a point. So I think that's a massive thing, isn't it? Because if you come up against a former club or you're in the market because you've been jettisoned, so if you go for a breakup, you want to try and make yourself look as good as you can to kind of make the ex a bit jealous, whatever. So I think that wouldn't be a concern for me. Doku looks very exciting. Sketchy injury record at such a young age. That does worry me. But this is the thing, isn't it? Does anything happen with Bailey or Coutinho, which therefore frees up a space? I wouldn't be surprised if we're done. Maybe potentially, there might be that Spanish right back, that Mark Pubil that's been linked.
Yeah, I think that one might get done. Yeah,
but I wouldn't be surprised if that's it. I also wouldn't be surprised if a couple of sort of like things out of nowhere came in. It still feels like, even though Diaby is a big signing, it still feels like we haven't made that Gim Irish type signing that Newcastle have. That one that everyone goes, wow, or Sven Botman. So maybe, I don't know, FFP and all that, but maybe there is. And Unai said himself, we're going to keep looking, keep active. So yeah, I don't know. Fingers crossed, mate. Maybe something else.
Yeah. Well, one player who isn't looking like he's going to be going anywhere, Martin, is Robin Olsen. According to Unai Emery in the press conference, he's sticking with him as the backup goalkeeper. He's very happy with him. And if we're playing potentially all these games, particularly in the Conference League, it's pretty feasible that he's going to get quite a few games. So I think we're going to have to just get used to him, aren't we?
Yeah, not many Villa fans are going to like it, but unfortunately that's the way it is. But here, like we say, Emery's the man that we all love and we're all trusting. So if you trust Robert Olsen, maybe we should too, which would be very hard for Villa fans to do. But to be honest, I probably would have wanted to see him go and bring somebody in, but it is what it is, So we just have to, like I said, we just have to suck it up and get used to it. So unfortunately, Olsen's here to stay, folks, and that's it.
Kev, any thoughts from you?
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of been said, really. I don't have much confidence in him in terms of... Look, I think he's made a few errors. I think he's clearly a decent keeper. He wouldn't be a Swedish international with that number of caps. I see that comment as well. It's good. But yeah, it's if you and I said it, then it's happening, isn't it? I feel like it's always that's what I was chuckling at.
Oh, that's bad.
Maybe not quite, but
not quite. Not quite.
Martinez is really impressed with how he's adapted, because I had concerns about Martinez's kicking and his ability to play out, but Martinez has given me super confidence the last few months with his ability to ping volleyed passes up the pitch to set Bailey or Watkins off, to play it short, to do little clip passes. I don't see many situations where Martinez doesn't look confident with ball at his feet. Olsen, not so much. So, but it is what it is, isn't it? So let's move on.
Yeah. Gary said, "Who knows best, Emery or us?" I say we're right about Olsen. Look, we'll have to wait and see. Just before we finish up, because I think that the comments have been fantastic, and I think we've pretty much covered everything that's there. I know Frank Kessie's been mentioned. I think we hit the rumours of him in the last one. Sharik says, "Who's worse, Olsen or Neeland?"
Oh, that's a good question. That Jesus.
I think I'd have to say. I think I'd have to say Neeland. I think, yeah, he just didn't give it. I mean, both of them don't give a massive amount of confidence to the defenders, but his championship wasn't in most.
I think I'd rather Niall. At least he had a bit of a stroke of luck with that Sheffield United game.
Yeah. Well, that's what he'll always go down in history. Dream Villain said he'd rather have the Olsen twins. But yeah, what I wanted to ask you lads is just quickly, because I know we'll probably do a review of the Lazio game mixed in with a preview of the Valencia game, then a kind of review of the Valencia game. How do you think Emery is going to approach those two games? I'll come to you first, Kev, just because they both come in quick succession. One's a Thursday night, one's a Thursday evening, one's a Saturday evening game as well, I think, or Saturday afternoon. So I guess, is he going to mix and match again? Is he going to say like maybe a reserve in quotes side against Lazio, and then he's going to be his first team side against Valencia? How would you see it?
Yeah, I think because obviously usually in pre-season the last game they play as full strength as possible. These jokes are.
Oh no, yeah,
it's good. Then for anyone listening to this on a podcast, people are just commenting various people that wouldn't be suitable to play in goal for Aston Villa because of disabilities, either physically or with their eyes. You'd have to watch it back on YouTube if you're listening back to this. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions still, though. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was two different teams. Wouldn't be surprised if it was two blended teams, like we mix it up in the games. But I think most likely, that'll be as full strength as possible. Probably you'll get an idea what his side will be. What his side will be for Newcastle. He plays. He's not like one of those managers who's he mixes when he feels he needs to mix, and now he's got more options. I don't think you'll see the same level of team consistency as we did last season. So, but more likely, I think the Lazio one where you'll probably see the likes of. I think Archer will get a chance. You might see Coutinho getting a start. I would be very, very. I think it's. I'll be surprised to see a game where Bailey and Diaby don't play together, just to see whether they can do some of what they've done. Maybe you might try a different centre half partnership and play Dini with maybe play. Have Dini and Cash played together yet in a game? I'm not sure.
Yes, they have. Yeah. I think the last couple. I think not today, obviously, but but before, I think the Newcastle game. I think they played together.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no. I think it's a difficult one, isn't it, Martin? Like, I think Kev's probably pretty much correct there. Like a blended side, I would say, in both games, just because, like we've said before, some of the teams that he's playing or substitutions that he's making, there's no real weakness, is there?
No, which I think is a great thing, that Villa are building a squad that we can look at options on the bench, as opposed to last season where we probably had one or two and then the rest were right, where do I go from here? So this is really something to look forward to. I think he might approach this games maybe the same, rotational. Maybe not the last one. I think he'll probably go with a full strength team just to get them ready, as maybe that's probably the ideal start 11 for him going into the Newcastle game. But we never know. We don't know the ins and outs and the behind the scenes of what's going on with the team selection. But whatever he goes with is obviously will be entrusted to Unai Emery. So please God that whatever he does, it comes out the right way.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting because I think quite a few teams have just got the one preseason game. We've obviously got two, and then we've got a week of training and build up to before that Newcastle game, and the season is coming at us thick and fast. Boys, will call it a day there. Lots of shows to come up over the next week or two, and we've got even more match previews, hopefully match reactions with the Conference League coming up. So we're going to be very, very busy over the next few weeks. We're obviously going to do our season prediction show, our Player of the Year, our awards, our predictions of our awards coming up, which always gets a laugh at the end of the season when we review them because they're all wrong. So yeah, that's all to come. We will have talking tactics again with Gareth. I know he's been on Twitter with some really good points about today's game, so that'll be out this week. I've also got an extra special episode with Tom Colomossi coming up this week, so I'll get a tweet out for that for questions on Villa transfers, on the signings that we've made and how we did them, and any other potentials that might be coming into the club, because he certainly had his finger on the pulse at Villa this summer. So that'd be great to get him back on the pod. Boys, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you all, everyone, for watching. As I said before, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 3K, already at over 2,100. Don't forget to watch the 2,000 subscriber video if you haven't, and like the video. Make sure you subscribe and comment on the video as well so you can enter into the competition. As always, though, have a great night, and remember...